Do 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 do.
Hey folks, I'm John, also known as DorkLovesSports on Twitter and YouTube. This is one of my real life best buddies.
Hey guys, Paul Bomba here. Good morning, or evening, or whatever time you're watching this.
Alright, and we're doing Airwolf to Rewolf. It is an Airwolf rewatch show with a twist. You want to tell them about it, Paulie?
Well, we love the Airwolf property. It's interesting. It's exciting. There's helicopters, explosions. They're doing a lot of reboots these days, and John and I are going to get together, bang our heads together, and maybe put together a screenplay for an Airwolf reboot. But we're going to work our way through the original series first. So buckle up, guys. It's pretty exciting stuff.
And today we're going to be covering episode 3 of the first season, Daddy's Gone A-Hunting. If I may, it's an episode built around, I would say, 2 mysteries. First is the mystery of who is the father of a young boy we meet living on the streets of Vietnam. And then the other
Blue-eyed boy.
We're going to get to that. And then the other mystery is which of the pilots... there are 5 American pilots, and our hero is sent to find out which of them is the one who's going to steal a top-secret American jet and deliver it to the Russians.
How dare this person?
It is tragic.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much where we start, right? It's the scene where we meet the young man in the first scene of the show. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, we start out on the streets of Hanoi or something. It's just seeing it, I was just kind of like, whoa, what's going on here? Production value, you're in Asia, they probably shot this on a lot in LA, but it was just cool to see. I mean, very peculiar. White boy was stealing some sneakers.
Yes, the sneakers. the defense attempt by the shopkeeper, which was less than graceful, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, this kid is obviously an urchin. We see him; he's dirty. He goes up very easily, takes a whole bundle of sneakers that seem to be tied together, like in a bushel. He takes a sneaker bushel, and the shopkeeper, it's like a cart. He's on the opposite side of the cart, so his move is to go full frontal dive over the cart, knocking the cart over. The kid gets away easily.
Yeah, poor strategy.
Easily.
Poor strategy.
Yeah.
I wish we had a telestrator and we could show the video and be like, poor strategy here with the white arrow. It's not great.
No, but what was it? What do they call it in the sports ball? Angle of attack. He took a bad angle.
Yeah, he took a bad angle. Bad angle.
Yeah, bad angle. Yeah. Knocked over his whole cart. Other shoes, other bushels.
Yeah.
Going places, and the kid winds up in an alley. And what does he find in the alley, John?
He finds 3 adult male ne'er-do-wells who seem to want to take his treasured bushel of sneakers away from him. And
we know they're ne'er-do-wells. We know they're ne'er-do-wells because they're dirty, and every article of clothing that they're wearing has some
torn.
There's some rip in it.
That's from all the ne'er-do-welling that they've done. It rips clothes.
It's like a clean rip, though. It's not. It's not like. It's like when you buy like a fake magic card, and they want to make it look like it's been played. This card is from 1995, so we're gonna do some scratches here. It's like the wrong kind of scratch. It's not It's not like these are not like real. These are not like real
distress
tears.
Clothing.
Someone took a scissor and was like, "Oh yeah, we got to make these look old, so we're going to distress them. We're gonna cut some V's in them." And so anyway, these grown men, beat the shit out of this kid.
Yes,
they kicked the crap out of him.
Yes, and 2 of them I recognized. Didn't know who they were, but looked them up. They were Jeff Amata and Eric Lee. Eric Lee it seemed like a martial artist of some renown. He's been in a lot of martial arts movies, a lot of
mostly stunts and stuff, or
mostly like Thug Number 3 and parts like that. And then Jeff Amata has had I would say objectively a more a better career, and he also seems to do a lot of stunt work and stunt coordination, fight design, on top of also appearing in a lot of those small roles as like Thug Number 3 and like Angry Guy in the Alley. They've both had really good careers. And the other person in the alley, I did not recognize, nor did I feel compelled to search out his identity. So,
yeah, no, and we're going to be seeing a lot of this. You know, this is the early '80s, 84, 83, and we're going to see a lot of actors that we recognize showing up and doing their bit on Airwolf.
I mean, that's one of my favorite parts. Is like you see this person and you're just like, I know that guy. Like I know that guy. It's great that we have like IMDb and stuff, so we can just go and like find it.
It's like when you're watching Law and Order SVU and you see Bobby Nardone and you're like,
I know that guy.
That guy
should be detective by now. Just saying. # Gold Shield. But
come on, Dick.
Come on, man. Maybe Belisario will be so moved by our show about Airwolf that he'll talk to Dick for you. You know, just
okay. I'll buy it.
I'm in.
I'm in.
Did you hear that, Belisario? We're doing this. We love you. Now
we love him.
So the young man, we fade out from the young man. We focus on it. We really emphasize the blue eyes, and the eyes. We're gonna get to the eyes. So we fade out and come in, and are we celloing? Do we come to Stringfellow at this point?
Well, no, we're looking at we're piloting Airwolf, right?
Yes. Yep. Go ahead. Sir.
Yeah. So Dominic is like, he's still not used to the controls. We'll find out why this is a necessary plot device later. But you know, Airwolf is obviously a machine of high technology, and it's not so easy to use.
Yeah, very complicated. It appears to be very complicated from a control perspective.
Stringfellow knows.
And we learned in the pilot episode that Stringfellow, I think, was one of the test pilots in the Airwolf program, so it makes sense that he would have some knowledge, but Dom is pretty lost. And we know that Dom is a helicopter pilot. We know that he has experience, probably as a mechanic, I think they've implied, and then certainly as a pilot. We've watched him fly helicopters. He has the company. He seems to own helicopters. So I think it is saying something to the audience that he is clearly lost in the back of this machine. Like,
it's stuff that's like Dominic wouldn't ever do, which is like set up targeting and stuff on the machine, you know? So it's like he's still got to get kind of tutored on his way. And I think that's, look, like I said, I think it makes sense. I think it lends a little bit of credibility to the story here, that this thing is so high tech.
Yeah, and I think we both agree that like any time spent with the two of them is probably well spent, just because Ernest Borgnine's awesome, and like they have a chemistry. I would say that the chemistry is mostly coming from one side, but they have a chemistry. Like it's.
I would agree. Yeah.
And there's just the warmth is needed in the show, and is this a dad joke? Because Ernest Borgnine also brings a lovely amount of humor to the show. Or was that the episode before?
No. There is some joking that goes on here, but you know, these are the kind of things that I glaze over kind of when I watch. You know, but they are funny. He's just got so much charm and energy. I got to hold my tongue because there's a lot we got to unpack with Dominic in this episode. It's just.
Action hero Dom. Ernest Borgnine needed some action hero.
Yeah.
For his real.
Enough. Let's not tease it out yet.
All right.
This is like exciting stuff that happens.
Yes.
Exciting.
So take us. I think we've covered that scene. Take us. What's next in the timeline?
I think we're gonna go talk to. We're gonna talk to Archangel, right?
Archangel, and then we have a new assistant for him, Morella, played by Deborah Pratt, who, speaking of Belisario and other shows he did, is the voice of Ziggy, or the narrator in Quantum Leap, which was, I had to go look because her voice just like set me off, and I was like, okay, that's gonna drive me crazy. Yeah. So I actually had to pause the episode and go look and find out. I was like, oh, okay, I feel better. And she she has a flirty energy. I would say it's fair to say with Stringfellow.
Yeah, I mean, she ain't getting anywhere with Stringfellow though, because we all know that anyone he loves dies. So
we've seen
even
evidence.
if he's interested, you know, brick wall, man.
Speaking of Gabriella, she is still showing up in the opening sequence to the show. Pretty liberally used in that, and
yeah, I mean, I think it was fairly standard practice at this time. And if you look at like Knight Rider and the A-Team and other shows like this, like the title, it wasn't like a Game of Thrones title sequence, you know, or Westworld or something where you have a completely dedicated title sequence that's made. The editor basically was like, I'm going to take clips from the pilot and like mash them up and then like get some names up there, some front of show names. And that's what the opening credits are going to be. They do have like the cool graphics, the Airwolf logo swooping in and the 1980s like computerized grid stuff. But, you know, but for the most part, the footage is straight out of the pilot episode.
Yeah.
And we may or may not see that change as time goes on. Like, I don't know.
It'll be interesting.
Like, as we see more, is that going to change? But, you know, for now, you know, our three main guys, Archangel and Dominic and Stringfellow are there. I don't think we see any other series regular, quote unquote, there in the title, the front of credits. You know, we do see some names pop up. You know, the guest stars, as it were. You know, but I think that we just have 3 series regulars, which is, you know, kind of interesting when you think about it. Like if you like a modern TV show, you know, you'll have, you know, 6 to 8 series regulars. Like a big show like Game of Thrones might have a dozen.
Yeah,
you know, but it's very rare to see a show that just has 3 main characters. I think. I don't know the numbers or the statistics on it, but
yeah, it'd be interesting.
We have them here. We have that here, and yeah. So Stringfellow needs a little convincing here to.
Yeah. So this is where Archangel basically tries to get him to do the job we discussed at the beginning, to go identify the traitor amongst the 5 pilots who were in the test program for the plane that they believe will be stolen.
Yeah, but what's the problem, right? Like, why does this guy want to steal the plane? We don't really know just yet. And Stringfellow brings up what I think is a kind of interesting thing for like this Cold War era. You know, this is kind of like Soviet Union. You know, 1980, the U.S. boycotted the Olympics in Moscow. And 84, shit was still going down. And you know, Stringfellow kind of brings up, hey, you know, how do we know that we're the good guys here?
Yes, and Deborah Ann Platt is she gives an answer that's quite, I think, sort of common, the black and white easy answer, which is we wear white. And so in effect, we know we're the good guys because we're the good guys.
You know, today I'm wearing my white members only jacket, which we actually see one. The brand has been stripped from it, but we do see a white members only jacket in this episode.
Oh, okay. Who's wearing the white members only jacket?
I'll get to it.
Okay.
I'll get to it. Man.
All right.
You just, I mean, where's your dramatic sense here? Come on, let it tease it out a little bit.
All right, let me get myself. Okay, so Stringfellow, I don't think is particularly convinced by this reasoning, but he seems as if he's inevitably going to give in. Now, my favorite part of the scene was when he called it a shame that Russia was going to get this super jet, the super secret jet, and Archangel responded with like a Shakespearean, like sort of soliloquy, wordy response to explain to Stringfellow that he was being a little obtuse, I would say, to paraphrase, calling it a shame. And they had a moment of what appeared to be like budding friendship, respect kind of thing, which if taken in a vacuum, it makes sense. Like, now, we've talked about this before, but we're watching the show in a way that it wasn't intended to be watched. We're watching it kind of bang, bang, bang in a row. We're also sort of trying to keep the thread in mind. And so it's hard. It was hard for me um, seeing that sort of warmth between them because he basically got his love killed like a few weeks
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
And that feels unearned. Now, I think they probably got away with it in the moment. I don't think people were watching the TV. Most people weren't watching Airwolf with that sort of like expectation of storytelling consistency, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I'll have to think about this a little bit more, but I really do think that, like, the people were expecting the adventure of the week.
Yeah, I mean, TV's changed, right? Like, this was the normal thing. Like, when we were growing up in the '80s and the '90s, like, it was mostly bottle episodes. It was mostly episodes still alone, and it made sense because there was no opportunity to go back and watch the episodes you missed. So if you built these season-long storylines and people
Right.
missed things, they were just going to punch out for the rest of the season and stop watching, which is a disaster for you. So I mean,
Yeah, I think that's really smart observation about why it was done this way. And this is in the true sense episodic, right? Where
yeah.
each episode is kind of standalone excitement.
Yeah, and this isn't limited to like what people might consider like the more action driven or sillier. I mean, Star Trek: The Next Generation, which was a phenomenal show, was very much like this. Was very much just each episode was a standalone. They would occasionally have 2-part episodes, and there were
Mm-hmm.
themes that went through, particularly with the characters and their growth. But you could basically start on any episode, and you would understand what was going on.
Yeah, we're on the ship, captain's log, set the stage, boom, we got our thing to do, we figure it
Mm-hmm.
out and move on. Like there, especially like season finales and a lot of Q stuff and
Yeah,
that stuff had multiple pieces to it. Of course, you have, Lieutenant Yar. She's there, she's not there. You gotta, you can't flip flop. But you could take like an episode 6 show, season 6 and like flip flop,
mm-hmm.
7 and 4, and it's not going to really make a big difference to you.
No. So back to Airwolf. Sorry, not sorry for the divergence to Star Trek. Get used to it.
Star Trek.
Star Trek. I love all the stars. I also love Star Wars. Oh my god. All right, moving on. Airwolf is so Airwolf's moving along. He is seemingly convinced by Archangel and Morella to take on the task. And is the next scene when he arrives and they're talking about him? The two pilots talking about Stringfellow?
We've got a scene outside.
Ooh, okay, tell me.
Right.
Tell me more.
He bumps into somebody. An old flame, perhaps.
How could I?
And what is she doing there? He goes to this air base. He gets out of the Jeep, and there's this woman who he obviously has a
history with.
A history with, yeah. And man, what did she say? He was like, "Oh man, it must have been 10 years," and she's like, "No, actually, it's been 11." And
yeah, like a number of months. It was very
just over 11 or something.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, okay. So what is that about?
Yeah.
What
is that?
Do we know the age of the little boy at this point? I don't know. Do we?
No, I think we find out from Archangel in a later scene. But here's the question. I think he identifies the child as 12, but do we believe Archangel? We'll have to get back to that when we talk about that scene.
But I can tell you this, John. He may have had a fling with this woman. Nee. What's her name?
Nee. I think we went with Nee. And there's.
I think it was Nee. But he never really got serious with her.
Why do you say that, Paul?
Well, John, it's fairly obvious she's still alive. She may have loved him.
Yes.
But there's no damn way he loved her.
No. The only person that can survive his love is Dom. Dom is the only bastion of hope he has in the world. Because he clearly loves Dom, right? And
yeah, it's a different kind of love.
Well, yeah. Of course.
Maybe.
Probably. But she seems to be upset with Stringfellow.
Not pleased, not pleased.
She sort of imploringly asked him, "Did you look for me? Did you even look for me?"
And his response is, "Well, after Saigon fell, well, I had to go.
Does it matter?
Does it matter? I guess not.
Yeah,
I guess not.
She's like, "Guess not," which is like, does it matter? Why the hell do you think I asked? Like, of course
Does
it
anything
matters.
matter?
Yeah.
No.
So he's being stoic. She even calls him out on it. She's like, something like, "So you still expect people to interpret your silences," or something like that toward the beginning of the conversation. It's just like, he seems
he's like, I have a high level of social anxiety, and I'm emotionally crippled, and talking is hard. But I'm a good pilot, so that's why I'm at this airbase.
That does seem to be the story they're telling us. Yes, so.
And now we're back to Vietnam.
Okay. Oh,
we're getting some good close-ups of this little boy's eyeballs.
Okay, we need the eyeballs.
We've got some serious makeup going on.
Yeah.
I think the effect is meant to make him look at least.
It's meant to make him look like he has Asian eyes.
Yeah, clumsily done.
Clumsily done, and just like, I don't know, what's the nicest way to describe this? Is perhaps ignorant, perhaps having no faith in your audience. Like, do they think the audience won't realize that a person who looks like a white child is a possibility in an interracial coupling? Like, I don't.
I think in casting, especially prior to this latest wave of kind of, I hate to use the word wokeness because I don't think it's really about that. I think it's more just about like representation in TV and film.
It's about fairness. It's about fairness. It is. Like,
absolutely. So now we're starting to see people with multiple credits that are able to sustain careers. Usually, people try to break into the acting thing, 4 or 5 years. They can't hack it. They can't make any money, and they have to go get a job. They got to get a real job. And leave. And I think that's what happens to a lot of people who are, South Asian, maybe Native American, maybe, certain types of Latino folks who don't have a lot of representation in TV and film. I mean, it's changed very drastically for African American and Black actors recently, but at the time, I'm sure it was the same thing. You have a certain number of Black actors who are hacking it, and the rest of them.
They made all the wrong choices, right? Because they could have just hired the white kid and not tried to do the makeup thing, which is sort of racist, to be blunt. But we're pointing out it was worse then, it was wrong then, and it's getting better.
Yeah, it is getting better. Is it where it needs to be? No. But, I think there's an appetite for it to get better, and I think people want it to get better, so I think it's getting better.
Pull us back in, man. Bring us to the next scene.
I just wanted to point out that Zimmer, in this scene with this kid, he's trying to barter with this, like, Vietnamese
general.
Yeah, war chief, warlord for this kid.
And that guy's awesome too. That's Aki Leong. I'm gonna try. It's Aleong. So it's either, I think, A-Long or A-Lung. I'm not sure. But he was born in Trinidad. His dad was a cook from Hong Kong, and his mom was from the West Indies. And they actually had different names for him. His dad called him Asing Leong, and it became Aki as a I think either a stage name or a nickname. And then his mom called him Leonard Gonzalez. So on like one bio I found, he was actually Aki Leonard Gonzalez Leong.
That's cool.
And he's still working. He was born in like 34. He grew up a lot in Brooklyn, so that's something that we're, I think, a big fan of. Did some time at Brooklyn College, taking classes, and his IMDb is like longer than my arm. It's wild. And like I said, I think he's like, so if you figure he's born in 34, he's quite, I might have that slightly wrong, but he's quite aged at this point. And he, I believe, is planned, like, has a movie in like post-production where he's the center of the movie. So that's pretty amazing. Wow. Like, I thought it was pretty cool. And I think that's reflected in the relative performances in the scene, wouldn't you say?
Well, yeah, I mean, Zimmer, who is, and I think this was an intentional curveball for us. He is wearing a white members only jacket.
I thought.
So is he a member of the firm? Is he part of the firm? Because we'll notice as the series goes on that the members of the firm wear white,
and because they're the good guys.
Right, they're the good guys. They literally say they wear white hats, but they actually also wear entirely white outfits.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a ridiculous Archangel moment coming up with white. Anyway, so anyway, they have a photograph. They're like, "Can you, who is this kid's father?" The kid wants to know, who is my dad? And it's not really clear who's in the photograph, but I think we're meant to assume that Stringfellow's in the photograph.
Yeah, I think if we froze frame it, both Roper and Stringfellow are in the picture.
Right, and Roper we're about to meet, but we're gonna cross his off from these blue eyes right into the blue eyes of Stringfellow. And he's in a Jeep. He's driving on the causeway, the gangway, the
base, whatever. He's
where the planes are. And Roper's in a plane, and he's got some beef with Stringfellow. He's saying, "Oh, this guy, but he saved my life."
Yep.
I don't know if I like him, but he saved my life. So blah blah blah. But we're gonna get to my second favorite part of the whole episode, which is like this bar scene where all the pilots are at a bar.
Yeah, the hazing, the weird, the weird.
Everybody's wearing a uniform, like an Air Force uniform. Everybody's got their, what are those little badges they wear? Those ribbons.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And their uniform is one color. Stringfellow's wearing one that's slightly off color. He's got no ribbons or anything like that. Yeah,
poor Stringfellow.
But he's captain. He's a captain.
He's an officer. He's an officer,
a lieutenant, or a captain.
He's higher ranked than them, I think.
So everybody's kind of giving Stringfellow shit, and then at one point they're like, "You got to make a speech, bro."
Yeah.
And he stands up, and after what felt like eternal hesitation, what does he say, John?
I gotta go to the bathroom.
I gotta go to the bathroom.
Well, I mean, when you gotta go, you know what I mean?
I guess, but again, this is Stringfellow character color, right? We're seeing him in the height of his social anxiety. Right, yeah. We're seeing him unable to express himself. Mm-hmm. And again, Airwolf is not a story about a helicopter. It's not a story about fighting the Russians. Airwolf is a journey towards self-discovery and self-expression.
We hope. Okay, so
and we're about to see that one of these pilots is a terrible drunk.
Yeah, and maybe the actor performing the drunkenness may have never been drunk before. We're also going to learn that. It's
certainly possible. He could barely walk.
Isn't Roper drunk?
Yeah, Roper's hammered out of his face.
Yeah, and he's mad, and he's kind of attacking Stringfellow. He seems really, really, really angry with Stringfellow, for reasons that I think the audience members who are kind of quick maybe starting to catch on to what's going on here. But is this when do we know that he is married to?
We find out in this scene, right? He calls her his wife. Like Stringfellow's like, "Yeah, I saw Nee on the base." Well, he's like, "Yeah, that's my wife."
And they might as well have had like the dun 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 right there, right? Because this is the first mystery that I discussed when we opened the show is pretty much solved in the next scene, right? Like we just this is the first thing that Bright Arrow points to Roper as the one who is going to steal the jet, right? And then and then it's just yep, we know.
So then Roper is like, all right, we got to show you this jet.
Yep.
So let's get out on the airstrip and let's get in this jet. And Stringfellow is like, Yeah, I can't reach this button over here.
Yeah,
Right?
Roper tells him to do some sort of task, and he's like, well, I can't reach it. And then Roper's like, well, take off your harness and hit it. And as soon as he takes off the harness,
Is this jet like the kind of jet that like before you get in there's like a little wooden thing like in the arrows like you must be this tall to fly this jet? Because like if you can't reach a control,
that seems
like
bad.
that's not good, man.
That seems problematic. But
Yeah, so he's like,
this is all the setup. What in effect is like a murder attempt by Roper on Stringfellow, where like as soon as he believes he has released himself from the thing, he does all kinds of air moves, and we see Stringfellow's head banging against the canopy of the jet.
not very nice, you know.
It was mean.
And it feels romantically motivated, right? It feels like, you know, I know you had a thing with my wife. I don't like you, but you saved my life. But I still got to beat the crap out of you somehow. So I'm gonna do all this maneuvering to knock you out.
Okay, so then are we done? Because that's basically the scene, right? He tries to kill him. They land.
Yeah, I don't know if he tries to kill him. I think he's just trying to like.
He's trying to mess him up. All right. Well,
yeah, he's trying to beat him up a little bit.
And then
maybe he's trying to like injure him so he doesn't go on the mission.
Yeah, and then basically when they get out, Stringfellow tells Roper he's grounded. He's like, "You can't do it." And it's like, "Yes, I can." And then they have the meeting with Archangel and Dom. Stringfellow, Archangel, and Dom. That's when Archangel reveals that the child is 12. Now, my question is he saying that because he knows that timeline doesn't work out and he's trying to sort of push Stringfellow away from feeling responsible for the boy?
I don't know, man. You know, to me, it just feels like he's presenting him with information. I think it's up to us to, put it together that... Now, the thing that I want to know is, was Roper in a relationship with Nee, right? And then she had a fling with Stringfellow. Or was Stringfellow do?
Uh-oh. You're frozen like this, Paul.
Oh, did I just get?
You froze. You froze for a couple minutes. So what were you were like this and you froze. So what were you saying?
Okay, so what I want to know is was Stringfellow in a relationship? Was Roper in a relationship with Nee, and then Stringfellow they cheat?
Yeah.
This one time or several times.
Yeah.
And then her relationship continues with Roper, but she's like, "Yeah, I cheated on you with Stringfellow." Roper's like, "He saved my life," but or was maybe Stringfellow with Nee and they were a thing, right? And then Stringfellow's like, Nee is like, "You know what? I'm late on my period," and Stringfellow's like, "Well, I don't love you, so goodbye." And then as a rebound, she gets with Roper, and then that takes her through the last 12 years. I don't know if necessarily has to be one of those two options, but those two seem to be the best.
Yeah.
I particularly like the one where there's a scene where Nee is like, "I think I'm late." And Stringfellow's like, "Well, you're still alive, so that means I don't love you, so goodbye."
I don't know if I like that for our hero. I don't know that that's how I would like to think of him. But
she's like, "What do you have to say about that?"
And he's just nothing.
And he's like,
and
"I have to go to the bathroom."
And then somehow he pulls out a cello, and he's just like, and Eagle flies. Oh no! I think he froze again. That's not that bad. Oh, there we go. We're back again. Oh, I can't hear you. I just see your lips moving.
Oh, there you are. You're back. Did you hear my punchline? I didn't hear your punchline. Oh, she was like, I think I'm late. And then he's like not saying anything. And she's like, "What do you have to say about that?" And his response is, "Well, I have to go to the bathroom."
I did hear that the first time, so we're gonna have a good cut of that.
John, you know what a punchline is? Come on. Call back.
Yeah, beautiful.
It's very curious where this is going. This whole storyline.
Speaking of callback, because I got really distracted by the Aki A Long story, which led into the discussion about the makeup, we didn't actually talk about what happened in that scene. And very briefly, when Members Jacket guy wants to take the child out of the country.
Mm-hmm.
And the general reluctantly permits it, effectively. Does he reveal Those members jacket reveal the the Zimmer reveal where he's taking the child in that scene. Do you recall?
No, and that's that's the thing that we're going to surmise, right? That's like, oh snap, he's not a member of the firm.
Yeah.
He is a Russian operative. He's KGB.
Dun dun dun. Yeah. See, that's. I didn't want to say that, but yes, that's. We can go right back to the scene where we have Stringfellow, Dom, and Archangel, and now Archangel is like, "You were right. Your instincts are great." To Stringfellow. I figured out Dom was looking into this guy, so we looked into him. He's married to Nee. They have a child. The Russians have the child. And he's going to trade the jet for. We assume that he's going to be the one who steals the jet and trade it for the kid. We're going to ground him, da da da. And then Stringfellow's like, "Do nothing. I got this."
Right, because he wants the kid.
Yeah, and he doesn't want to. I don't think he has anger or judgment at Roper. I think it's kind of like,
well, I don't think he has emotion, period. So.
Well, I mean, he does very soon punch Roper in the face twice. So there is a certain amount of, I think, emotion involved, but it is not a well-expressed emotion. It is seemingly solely anger, which is the sign of, as we've discussed, someone who struggles with social anxiety and just emotional awareness, self-awareness. Anger is generally the easiest emotion to access for people, very often, especially males. During this,
what's curious about this whole scenario, which is, take it or leave it. I mean, they've had 11 years, man. they've had 11 years. They know the kid exists. Like, what are you doing to get the kid?
They do wave hand it a little bit and say that she has been trying to get the child out of Vietnam since she got out. That
right.
Roper says regretfully that he talked her into leaving without the child. And I think that's where because he seems like him and Stringfellow have their things, which seem to be romantically based largely. Maybe jealousy on his part that Stringfellow is like sort of the, strong American hero that maybe he wants to be. So we know that Stringfellow, I think all the audience members are on board right now, and we have a strong suspicion that somehow Airwolf is going to be employed to go rescue the child from Russia.
And Stringfellow is going to be piloting this jet or co-piloting the jet, right, with Roper. He's going to, they have their mission briefing thing.
Yep.
And all the jets are going different directions. Some of the pilots are like, "What's going on?" Roper is going to be with Stringfellow.
Yeah.
Right. So Stringfellow and Roper get in the jet and they start flying away. And he's like, "Look, I'm going to land. And then you're just going to keep flying."
Yeah. You're going to keep flying when we tell you to. And Stringfellow is very clearly the person in charge of this plane. Like he's running the show.
Yeah.
So, and he basically like, "Roper, follow my instructions. I got this." He meets Santini, right, when they land the plane, and they drive off into the desert to retrieve the titular Airwolf. He's
flying low. They lose him on the radar. He lands. The plane lifts off again. It's just, they chastise him for going out of radar contact.
Mm-hmm.
They've got to drive. They have the secret location. Airwolf is like in a secret location. Nobody knows where it is. So Santini's got to pick them up. They got to drive all the way to Airwolf. They got to get an Airwolf. They got to have the Airwolf powering up sequence where they're pushing the buttons and it's music comes on. So it's like, it felt like there was like a lot of time happening here. And then they're like flying to Yakutsk or whatever.
Well, this is where I think we're trying to highlight that this helicopter can fly like a jet. So the plan appears to be that they land the top secret jet, and then Airwolf is going to, in effect, impersonate the jet because they can fly Mach 1, the speed faster than the speed of sound, and impersonate it. So now with the jet hidden, they take off. They are initially on the path that the jet should have been on, and then at a critical juncture, they divert off, dive down, and go on their attack mission to retrieve the child.
And so they're flying from like what probably is like Nevada, Northern California.
Yeah, I mean certainly the high desert,
the desert somewhere, right? And they're flying all the way to Alaska, and they're flying over the Bering Sea into like the Russian Far East. Geographically, it's a little. There's a lot of holes here. It's
all right. So
we got to get the Russians involved, obviously. So we're flying to Russia, but
they're the bad guys.
He's flying to Russia. He's going in with Airwolf. Our guy Zimmer is at the base with the kid. The Russians are saying, "What are we going to do?" Blah blah blah. We got the kid. The kid is unimportant to us. No shit. And then a truly magical thing happens when Airwolf flies in. It blows up a couple of Jeeps. It lands.
It doesn't land. It hovers.
It hovers. Excuse me.
It hovers. Because it's more important. Because then it is a more challenging thing that Dom, action hero Santini, does as he leaps out of the back of the helicopter, armed, like machine gun wielding Dom, runs in, just takes the guy out. Just knocks him on the ground.
He does a dive to the floor. He shoots a guy. He gets shot at. The guy misses. He shoots the guy.
Yeah, kills a couple people. Like, unquestionably kills a couple people.
Goes in, grabs the kid.
Gets out. Airwolf does like a cool turny thing where it blows up a bad guy Jeep, I think, or truck of some kind.
Yeah.
And they get back in, right? And the child looks at him and says, "Are you my dad?" And Stringfellow says, "You'll know him when you see him," right, or something. And
there was a really cool stunt here.
Okay.
There was a really, really cool stunt here because so when Dom gets back at the Airwolf like spins around, rotates around, and Zimmer is there with like a handgun, and Airwolf like flies really slow, like gets really close to him, right?
Like,
and I don't know if they did it with like perspective and they made used like a diopter and they made it look like it was all one plane, but like this was really cool, like how close this helicopter gets to this actor.
Yeah.
And then it just like it flies away.
It did. It did to me, like that was cool, like practically, but like it felt like he got off easy. Right?
Oh, you wanted him to die?
He just got mushed by a helicopter, effectively, and like fell on his butt. Like, a bunch of other soldiers died. Like, it was all his fault. Like,
I mean, maybe we'll see Zimmer in the future. Maybe we'll have more Zimmer.
Maybe Zimmer with recast.
It's interesting, Is this line of Stringfellow's family gonna like come back to haunt us? Are we gonna know? Or is it like I have a son? Next episode, we're going to forget about it completely.
Well, I mean, we're going to get to that, but there's no... They at no point confirm and or deny the parentage of the child.
Right.
Now, I think if this show were made now, like, Airwolf would have tipped and the blades would have taken the guy's head off. I'm not saying that's better or worse. I'm just saying that's how things have changed. And that's probably what happens.
I'm writing that down. I'm writing that in my notes for Rewolf because... Airwolf's got to decapitate somebody.
It has to. Come on. So are we just going to go to the last scene now? Are we back at the Stringfellow compound?
I think so.
All right. So everyone's there. Happy gathering. It's Archangel. It's Nee and Major and the boy. And this is where we have, I think, a very important interaction where he sort of, with a smile, with a Stringfellow, Jan Michael Vincent pulling up some smile, right, is interacting with Nee, and he's like, "Are we going to talk about this?" or something like that, sort of vaguely, I think, asking if the boy is his. And her response is, "The only answer I've ever given is that Roper is his father." And he says, right. "I guess I'll have to accept that."
Right, but we learned something more about this child.
What's that?
His name.
Oh, yes. And they say that they are going to name the child after our hero, which I think is child abuse. I don't know. It's It's certainly not kindness, particularly when let's do it now. Paul, for posterity, is that child Stringfellows?
Yes.
Okay, I will answer the question at all with an emphatic yes. It is obviously that is what they're telling you the whole time, and it is wild that everyone's just like, "Yes, this is cool."
It's like, I'm gonna raise this as my son. I'm gonna take him, but you cuckolded me, and this is actually your son. And we're gonna name him after you, but we're just gonna pretend like you're not his dad.
Imagine like 10 years later.
Very strange choice.
Why did you name me after that guy? Well, he saved you in Russia. It's like, well, okay, is that it? Like, are we cool? What's between us? And it's like, nothing. Don't worry about it, man. Like,
I wrote here, John. They name him Stringfellow dash YECHHHH exclamation point.
There's just some wild choices going on at the end of this episode.
Yeah.
It's the seeming almost happy acceptance of being an absentee father. I find troubling, particularly as someone who has a 3-year-old and is a relatively new father. I can't even wrap my head around that being a possibility. I think this is another testament to that this is a 30-year-old show, right? Like it's just not the way it would be done now. Like, because at the end of this, the audience is supposed to be like, man, Stringfellow. Like, we're supposed to either sort of feel sort of melancholy for him or like proud of him for being honorable or something. And that's just not the way it's read now. That's not the way a modern audience is going to look back and read that scene. It's thankfully things have changed. Like it's not a positive outcome. Like you're never going to be a part of your son's life, but it's cool because we gave him your name.
Yeah. Right. So anyway, I will say, John, despite the flaws of the episode, I just had a blast watching it. I loved it.
It's of its time, right? Like the show is of its time. I can comfortably speak for you on this. Like, I still get hyped when that music starts and that like 80s thing that you were describing earlier starts. Like, I'm like, yeah, I'm watching Airwolf. Let's go. It's just cool.
Airwolf.
Right?
Yeah. The music is next level, man.
The sleek black helicopter, like, it's a good looking helicopter. Like,
good looking copter.
That is really cool. And so next time on Airwolf to Rewolf, we will be watching episode 4 of the first season. Please like and subscribe. Comment. Tell us how you like it so far. Tell us if you think Stringfellow is the father. Paul, would you like to say goodbye?
I would. Goodbye.